Hi, this is Ray for Tiff and Steadicam, and today we're going to be talking about the Steadicam Smoothie. We're going to help you with general setup for the Smoothie and your universal mount, and we're going to get you balanced so you can get up and shooting quickly. Your Steadicam Smoothie is going to come in this box, and what's inside of the box is going to be your Steadicam Smoothie unit, your universal mount for your phone. You're going to have this handy belt clip holster, and you can put that onto your belt, holster the Smoothie so you can be hands-free, and then pick the Smoothie up and start shooting again quickly. So that comes in pretty handy when you need to be hands-free. And the Steadicam weight, and we're going to discuss this weight in more detail when it comes to the bigger phones and getting set up for balance on that, and also when it comes to increased stability, which again we'll talk about in the later part of the video. Alright, so let's get started with an iPhone 5S. This is the smallest phone in this lineup, and we're going to get that set up with our universal mount. So first thing with the universal mount is that you'll see there are two buttons on the side that release this top latch, and this is spring loaded. So when you push those two buttons in, that releases the latch to the top of its travel. There are two more buttons on the back side, and those release the arms. Now these are not spring loaded, so you'll push the button and then lightly pull the arm out to the end of its travel on one side, and then you'll do the same thing on the other side. There is a red knob here, and if you twist that, that moves this mount up and down. Now we're going to again discuss that a little bit later when it comes to balancing. So for right now, just want you to keep it flush against the bottom of the unit, and just make sure that this red knob is tightened down securely. So I'm going to take my iPhone 5S, making sure that the lens is not covered, and it's on the top so that the lens is actually viewable to what I'm shooting. And if this is your first time balancing it, just take a look and visually assess that it's in the center. And that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to close the arms on the side in until they reach the end of my phone. And what's great about the universal mount is it does have index markers on the back of the arms. So later when I need to swap my devices out or change quickly, I can remember where those markers are. And then the last thing is the top portion here with this silicone rubber pad. I'm just going to press down. Now, it does meet the phone there, but I want to make sure it gets a good grip on it. So I'm going to press down a couple more clicks to make sure that phone is secured in there. And that rubber grip is doing its job in holding my phone in place. And that's not going to go anywhere. So now that I've got my phone set up with my universal mount, I'm going to attach it to the Smoothie. You've got a quick release latch that is spring loaded at the top, and that swivels. And if I swivel this and line up these edges, that's going to allow me to mount my universal mount. Now you will see on the front part of the universal mount, it has a little bit of a beveled edge, and that edge needs to go into the unit first from the front. So I'm going to keep the latch in line on the Smoothie. I'm going to take the universal mount and put the front end in first, just like so, and then just seat the rest of it back down onto the Smoothie and release the latch, which will lock it into place. So now my phone's secure in the universal mount, and the universal mount is secured on the Smoothie. So now that I've got my device mounted into the universal mount, and the universal mount is secured on the Smoothie, am I ready to shoot? Well, probably not. We're not balanced. So we're going to need to balance. We've got a couple of different options here, and the first thing we want to do is make sure that this front weight is lined up properly. Now, the front weight's got the Steadicam brand on the front, and this weight slides along these rails towards the top and towards the bottom of the unit. And again, we're going to discuss why this is important a little bit later. But for now, we want to get you up and running quickly. And what we've done is we've indexed a little circle here on the rail. And that circle will line up with this hole that's on the side of the Steadicam front weight. So all you got to do is slide that weight down until you see the circle line up inside of that hole. Now next, I am tilted left and right. So I want to fix that. I'm going to take this fine-tune adjustment knob here, and I'm going to turn it according to which direction I want to tilt the unit. And that's indexed here as well. tilt right, we're going to turn clockwise, and tilt left, we're going to turn counterclockwise. So I need to tilt it to the left. So I'm going to start turning this knob counterclockwise. And at the same time, I'm using my thumb and my forefinger to lightly dampen the gimbal and get it to settle in place to see how much more I need to turn the knob. So I'm going to keep turning it and dampening the gimbal until I feel like it's relatively lined up left to right, and that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to leave it there. Next I'm going to do the same thing for forward and back. So this is tilted back a lot, so I'm going to tilt it forward. So again, using this knob, I'm going to follow the index that says tilt forward or tilt back. And tilting forward is going to be a clockwise turn for me. So again, dampening the gimbal, getting the unit to settle to see how much more I need to turn that knob. And that looks pretty good to me. And believe it or not, it's that easy. I'm ready to go, I'm up and running and ready to shoot. So we just balanced for the iPhone 5S. Let's try to balance an iPhone 6. The process is going to be the same. I'm going to make sure I've got my hand on my phone when I release this top latch. So when I press those buttons and the spring-loaded latch releases, my phone's going to be free. So I want to make sure I have my hand on the phone because I don't want the phone to fall out and hit the table or the ground and possibly mess my phone up. So just make sure you've got your hand on there every time you're removing your phone. So the 6 is slightly larger than the iPhone 5S. So we're going to need to make some adjustments to the universal mount. So let's go ahead and start with, again, the arms as wide as they can go and the top latch at the end of its travel. And we're going to take the iPhone 6, again making sure the lens can see what it's shooting, it's not covered, and we're going to just look to see how close we can get to center, and that looks pretty good to me. So again, I'm going to close the arms up on the side. I may take note of those index markers on the back, and I'm going to give the top a good squeeze to make sure that the phone is secured in there. Then the same thing that I did with the iPhone 5S, I'm going to release the latch on the Smoothie, and I'm going to front load the universal mount, and then seat the back in and release the latch. And I'm going to take my handle down and see how close we are to balance. And actually we're pretty close, it's just tilted to the right slightly. So we're going to go ahead and use the fine-tune adjustment knobs to tilt back towards the left. And I'm in good balance there. So there wasn't much to do to go from the iPhone 5S to the 6. And I'm up and running, I'm balanced, and I'm ready to shoot. Okay, so we've balanced the iPhone 5S and the 6. Now we're going to go to something like the 6 Plus, which has got a substantial size difference and weight difference. So it's the same process here. I'm going to take the universal mount. It's opened up already with the top latch and the side arms. Got my lens pointed in the right direction, and it's not being covered by the universal mount. And again, I'm just going to seat this 6 Plus and kind of just look to see if I'm relatively centered here. And now this 6 Plus does just fit in this universal mount, so there's just a little bit of adjusting to do to close up the side units. And again, taking note of the index markers where the 6 Plus is, so I can remember that for later and the next time I switch the device out. And then the top, and give it that good hard push at the top, and that rubber pad is grabbing onto that iPhone 6 so it doesn't go anywhere. With regard to your Smoothie, I can already tell you that the 6 Plus is going to be heavier than the other two phones, obviously. So we need to compensate for that somehow, because the unit's going to want to tip over because the center of gravity is going to be greater towards the top with the phone being heavier now. So the unit's going to naturally want to flip over. So we want to set this unit up prior to putting the 6 Plus on there so that that doesn't happen. So I've got my Steadicam weight, and it's got these grooves here in the side that seat inside of this rail. If you're trying to seat this in towards the ends, you have a much tougher time because there isn't going to be as much give because of how secure it is towards the top and the bottom. But inside of the center part, you've got a little bit more room to play, and you can get that weight seated in there pretty easily. Then from there you can take the weight and slide it along the rails towards the bottom, and that's where we're going to want that weight for the 6 Plus. So same thing, I'm going to take this 6 Plus, release the latch, slide my mount in with the front first, and then secure it in place with the quick release latch. And again, we got pretty lucky there. Pretty close to balance from the 6. There's not much I have to do, and actually I'm just going to leave it alone because it is straight to me there, and it's also looking even and straight left to right. So I'm ready to go. So now that we've explained balancing with 3 different size phones, you might be thinking to yourself, so basically the bigger my phone is, the heavier it is, and I have to adjust the Smoothie accordingly. Well, that's not necessarily true. I do have a Droid Turbo here, which is close to the size of the 6, but definitely much smaller than the 6 Plus. But this phone actually is in fact heavier than the 6. Well, how do I compensate for that? Much in the same way that you did for the 6 Plus. So we're going to go ahead and center the phone, get our side arms in, and we're going to clamp the phone down at the top, making sure it's secure. This phone is probably going to need the Steadicam weight at the bottom, since I know that it's heavier than the 6 Plus, and I want more stability with this phone. So I'm going to take the weight, insert it like we did for the 6 Plus, and I'm going to slide that weight down to the bottom. Now I'm going to take the phone and I'm going to mount it just like I did with all the other phones. Secure it in place with the latch, and I want to see where the unit balances. And so with this particular device, it's a little heavier, it's a little thicker, and it's a little heavier to the back. So all I'm going to do is turn my fine-tune knob to tilt it forward a little bit. Until it evens itself out. Then I'm going to look at my left to right adjustment. And I did a pretty good job guessing. It's a little bit off. So I'm going to tilt it to the left. And that looks pretty good. And so I'm balanced in the same way. That covers the basics for general setup and balancing. So now the fun part is to get out there with your device, your universal mount, and your Smoothie, and start filming and telling some great stories.